Capacity versus raw power, 9mm versus 357 Magnum. What I have today is Remington ammunition. The 9mm is a 115 grain jacketed hollow point Remington UMC, and the 357 Magnum is a 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point Remington HTP. These are basically the same ammunitions. It's just that when it's packaged as HTP, the revolver cartridges happen to be nickel plated, as where if they were in UMC packaging, it would just be brass cases. But these are known for being a very good man stopper, these 357 Magnum rounds. This is the round that basically all other cartridges are judged by. So what I want to do here is a test, and I'm going to call this capacity versus raw power. You know, this right here, 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point through a 4-inch barrel, is that classic round where it's 96% one-shot stop. And a lot of the old retired law enforcement that used to carry revolvers will swear by that one-shot stop. 9mm, on the other hand, maybe not so much of a stopper, but you have a lot more capacity. I have almost triple the capacity, actually full triple the capacity in this versus this. I got 6 plus 18, so triple the capacity there. So that's something to think about. But I'm going to test this stuff, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a different test than what I normally do with this. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to hit my 10% clear ballistic pack here. I'm just going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of these cartridges are. Then after that, I'm going to do more of a real world simulation. I'm going to have 4 layers of denim on the first piece here. That's a 3-inch piece of clear ballistics that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, I'll have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard that's going to represent ribs or sternum. That's more of a real world simulation. And by the way, I'm using my 5-inch Smith & Wesson M&P for our 9mm versus our 4-inch Smith & Wesson 686 for the 357 Magnum. Reason why is because they got almost the same barrel travel. You know, you have a 5-inch barrel here, but the cartridge is about 1 inch, so then you got about 4 inches to work with. This is a 4-inch barrel, so it's pretty comparable. But what I want to do here is I want to go to like more of a standard distance with our bad guy target. This says intruder, and I want to pop off some shots from like 7 yards at this, see what kind of good hits I can get with this, see if I can actually make follow-up shots with 357 mag. Sometimes I hear people say you can't because it's too much recoil, but I want to get real with this and see what I can do with that. So let's get started with this test. All right, so written on the box with this 9mm, it says 1145 feet per second is our rated velocity. That generally means through a 4-inch barrel. And the box doesn't say with the 357, but I happen to know that's rated at 1440 feet per second. So through a 5-inch barrel, let's see what our 9mm gives us. See how close we get to that 1145 feet per second. 1177, 1190, 1169. 1186, 1191, so pretty good velocity overall. 357 Magnum, it's a 10 grain heavier bullet, right at 1440. Let's see what I get here. Wow, 1603, 1561, 1557, 1526. 1508, so that's a true 357 Magnum. I've noticed lately Remington's been loading them a little bit hotter. Grease ejection is great with that. Let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these compare. All right, in the plain clear ballistics, our best potential here. Here's our 9mm 115 grain jacketed hollow point. All right, let's hit that with our 357 mag 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point. Go take a look. All right, so a big difference here, and the biggest difference is in this first 3 inches here. And honestly, I believe that that's really one of the most important things to look at. Our 9mm on the bottom, our 357 mag is on the top. What I've noticed through studying ballistics a lot, and not just, you know, my test, but looking at a lot of the information that's out there, what you see is rounds that have a lot of energy dump that don't necessarily penetrate very far have the highest one-shot stops. Typically what you'll see with rounds like Hydra-Shock 45 ACP or this particular round is rounds that don't really penetrate much beyond 13 inches, and those show that in the real world they have the most quote-unquote stopping power. So looking at this, our 9mm didn't do too bad here. We got some expansion, and everything looks pretty good with that 9mm. But what we're looking at with our 9mm is pretty good amount of damage for a 9mm. We got expansion. We penetrated to about 14 inches even. And sometimes camera parallax makes it look like my finger's not lined up because it's in the back and it stretches it a little bit. But that's 14 inches even. Our 357 mag, a whole bunch of energy dump, good expansion, and we went to 13 inches even. So in my mind, that's really perfect because, you know, a lot of people are really hung up on this FBI protocol where it's 12 to 18. If you get towards the low end, they think it's not good, but there's a lot more to that. It has a lot to do with making side shots. But in the real world, honestly, if we look at gel, just gel, you really only need like 8 inches in gel, which would be about 4 inches in a human body to really be effective as long as it's a front-on shot. So I think both these did fine. So let's put on our denim, put in our MDF, see how they compare that way. All right, more of our real world simulation here. 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics to represent our pectoral muscle. And like I just said, you know, it's about a half representation. So that's like 1.5 inches pectoral muscle on real flesh. And then we hit our rib simulation, the more clear ballistics. So let's see what our 9mm does here. Let me set that back up and then we'll hit with the 357 Magnum. All right, 357 Magnum, more of our real world simulation. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look at that. All right, I was pretty excited about this. A lot of this MDF is all busted up like this after that 357 Magnum impact. And it's really not a surprise that it did that. We got some MDF underneath it too. But what we're looking at here in our first 3 inches, 9mm on the bottom, 357 mag on the top, there's essentially no difference to that impact with denim in the way there. Our 9mm also, not really any difference, maybe even a little bit bigger with the 9mm. But with our 357 mag, what's cool about that is it's a semi-jacketed, so even if you quote-unquote clog that hollow point, it's still a soft lead tip, it's still going to mushroom out. So putting this back in place here, see its proper depth. What I want to show here is this is through our 9mm, or this is a 9mm through that. Totally got expansion even with that denim. So that's really impressive, to be honest, because a lot of times 9mm, even with better designs, kind of fail. 357 mag, this is the whole, basically it hit right here, and I don't even know where all the pieces are, but it sheared this whole thing off and busted it in half. That's a lot of energy hitting that. So that did a lot of damage. And what we're looking at here though, with our 9mm, is we get a penetration of about 14 3/4 inches. It looks like there's expansion. There's a lot of good damage in there. So for being what it is, that's not bad. Our 357 mag, on the other hand, a little bit more damage, but we see pieces of lead here, here, bunch of different busted off pieces of lead. The core is a lot smaller because it exploded right here. So we're only looking at 11.5 inches, and a lot of people would say, well, that's an absolute failure. But I can tell you, based on the numbers that's out there with stuff like this, you're looking at real world numbers of like 80% one shot stop. And I know that doesn't mean a lot nowadays when multiple shots are always fired, but back when that was the thing, 80%, this is a 96%, almost hitting 100%. It's going to work. But yeah, in the end, it looks like it's a failure, but it's honestly not. So we have to look at everything with a grain of salt here. This put in so much energy dump, you know, it's very unlikely an attacker is going to be standing after that, unless, let's say, they're shot through the side, through their arm, and it stops a 1/2 inch from their heart, and they're on drugs, like the 1986 Miami shootout. You know, that's where the FBI penetration numbers come from. But when we're talking normal situations, absolutely this 357 mag is brutal and a very powerful choice. So let me put up that paper target I was talking about, see what kind of practical accuracy and follow-up shots I can get from 7 yards, because that's really what most people want to know and want to see. Not so much can I hit something at 25 yards, but you know, normal distances, how well can I do with these? So let's do that. All right, so taking a close-up look at these bullets here, our 9mm actually is bigger than our 357 mag through plain gel because it retained all of that. Our 357 Magnum, which I'll show here in a minute, stripped off a lot of that lead. So even though it didn't come to a larger diameter, you have to understand it created a larger diameter, and it was so much force that it ripped that apart. So that makes a big difference there. Now when we go through our medium density fiberboard, our 9mm is here and our 357 mag is here. Kind of the same thing. We come to a little bit smaller diameter. One thing I am going to say here is that I'm actually pretty surprised at this stuff as being as good as it is for being really cheap ammo. That's a pretty good 9mm, at least through a 5-inch barrel. So you could do a lot worse than that. Now what I did is I took a cross section here and I cut through. Here's our 9mm. This is clear ballistics, so it's not an exact science here, but this is what you're looking at with our 9mm. We don't see much debris in there or lead or anything because, you know, it all stayed intact. Our 357 mag, here's just one cross section of it. We have all kinds of pieces of lead, and this is going to be our actual diameter. If we were to pull that apart and piece it back together, at one point it made about probably an 80-90 caliber hole. You know, a lot of damage and lead pieces falling out from our 357 mag. Our other side of our 9mm path looks just like the first side, and this is the other side of our 357 mag. All those lead fragments in there, and the size of that channel is just massive. It is an absolute nightmare looking situation there. So 9mm 357 mag. I know it's clear ballistics, so it is hard to really say one looks significantly different than the other, but I am going to say here, you know, our 357 is this and this, and this is our 9mm. That is absolutely a nightmare to get hit with. I can just say that just by looking at this. So you might be like, oh, those diameters are smaller than those, it's a fail. No, it's not. That is just nasty. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, so I taped off 7 yards here, so I'm very consistent with the averages here. And what I want to do is just get a nice sight picture here. I'll start from low ready because I don't have both my holsters set up. And I'll just pull up with our 9mm, get a very, very front sight, quick sight picture, pop off a shot, see how our 9mm does. So 9mm. All right. Right through his heart like I was aiming. Well, basically as I'm aiming the center. I did hit a little bit to the right of where I thought that would go. So 357 Magnum, do the same thing. Other side of them there. So I would say that's relatively effective. Now I'm going to do a double tap here and see what the difference is here. 9mm is a lot easier to control, so try to place 2 on target. All right, 357 mag, same thing. Let me go up and take a look at that because let's see where all those holes are right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, they're all pretty much center mass where they need to be. And honestly, you know, because that revolver's heavier, I didn't really feel a big difference there in controllability. You know, it was relatively easy to control. It's not like a wrist snapping round like a 44 mag. Yet it's still super effective. So let me put some tape over these and I'll keep going. All right, so let me do kind of a Mozambique drill. That's one of the names for it. 2 to the body, 1 to the head. See if I can do that for 9mm. Let's see how this feels for me. Already. I don't think I did very good. It's kind of hard to see where I hit. All right, I pulled one kind of left and I did hit in the head. I just didn't see it. 357 Magnum. Let me try to do that same thing. It'll probably take a little more time. But to be honest with you, I don't think if you put 2 in the body with this, you would need the 3rd shot. 9mm, I think you might. So let me see what I can do with this though. I shut them up. Let's go take a look at that. All right, so I'd say, I don't know, it just from me, it looks like this is a little bit better accuracy for me with the 357 here, here, and here. 9mm here, here, and here. All those are pretty effective hits. But you know, it's one of those things. Obviously, this would be a fight stopper. This impact and this impact, you know, this would be probably spinal cord. So not a huge difference for my ability with both of these. So let me try some more rapid fire. All right, I'm not sure how many rounds I have left in here. Let me just get center, a nice center hold. Just let them fly, see what it looks like. Let me go take a look at that. It looks like I hit 2 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So, yeah, he'd be in bad shape there with that. Wasn't really getting much of a sight picture, just kind of looking at the barrel and letting them fly. But I'm happy with that. Let me try the 357. All right, 357 mag. I believe I have 1 left and then I have a reload, so I'll see if I can do a reload with the 357. See how this looks. Not easy. All right. Let me take a look at that. All right, I just missed them. I aimed for right about here, general area. I got here, so just missed his ear. But that second one, you know, when you're aiming center mass, it's easier for your eyes to focus on this and just kind of than it is here. So that's a pretty good shot. That's not so much. All right, so I'd love to do multiple attacker simulations. Unfortunately, I don't have really another way to hold another target. I did that a few years ago, though. And, you know, I saw pretty good results. It seems like when I would turn to the next one, some of them would hit a little bit left or a little bit right of center. But the one straight up, you know, from the isosceles hold would always be kind of centered here. So, I think I have 5 rounds left in this. So, let me just rapid fire like I did with the 9mm, see what happens. See, once I get to about 3 rounds, I just have to start gripping it tighter to really get a control of that. But that's some pretty powerful ammo. Let me go take a look at that. All right, so, you know, they say that when you're under stress, you hyper focus on the gun. I must have done that, but I don't remember even looking at it. Now, I busted his Glock here. 1, 2, 3. These are all spots that would be, you know, right here. That would be just brutal. And then this right here is just barely missing the heart, going through the lung. So I would say pretty effective here. All right, that was fun. But, you know, looking at this has been an important thing for me to do for a long time, for me to want to come out here and say, you know, I do a lot of studies of ballistic testing, and I see a lot of people out there doing a lot of training. That's great. But the thing I see all the time is a training when the buzzer goes off and then they're like, boom, boom. And then what they come to the conclusion of is that they're fine. They've won because they're faster and then they can't be harmed. But what I'm seeing in a lot of these law enforcement videos is 9mm being used a lot. Boom, doesn't do anything. Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Often doesn't do anything. I've seen footage where people have taken upwards of 13 rounds of 9mm and not stopped. That's my main concern, is that there's a lot of hyper focus on accuracy and all that. And I mean, there's just nothing wrong with that to some degree. But they don't really think about the ballistics, the stopping power, the ability of the cartridge, and that's just kind of a layman's term for the ability of the cartridge to stop a threat faster. Now, I haven't seen any actual 357 Magnum footage. I have seen 357 SIG footage, where that North Carolina trooper shot that guy and just one shot center mass and he dropped down. That was it. And that really mirrors the stories I would hear about 357 Magnum, which makes sense because it's about the same velocity, about the same bullet weight. So it's almost like there's a magic number there. Once you get 125 grain up there at around 1500 feet per second, it does something a lot different than what a 124 grain does at 1200. It goes from not being very effective to being extraordinarily effective. And through my studies and all this stuff, I think about this stuff a lot. I've actually had dreams of having to use a firearm to stop a threat. And one of them, well, probably 3 or 4 or 5 times, I've had the same one where I've used a 9mm and I would make impacts, but then somehow I was impacting myself. I had another one though recently where for whatever reason I had to go in somewhere and there was 3 guys doing harm to other people, and for whatever, I guess, stupid reason, I had this in my hand. And I don't remember anything about the incident. I just remember in the dream I told the police that, yeah, I dropped all 3 of them and they all went down. And it's kind of bizarre because I don't dream very often. But I think it's just a lot of my ballistic testing is always in my head, going over things here and there and just looking at the numbers, looking at the data. It kind of draws a picture of reality. So if I'm going to leave anybody with anything today, I want to say that ballistic testing and load choice matters probably more than anything else. You know, shot placement's important, all of that. But, you know, perfect shot placement doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be super effective. Having something that you have pretty good shot placement with that is known to be super effective, to me, is a really important thing. So looking at this here, I'm not going to knock the 9mm and say it's bad. I mean, it is easy to shoot. However, just doing what I'm doing today, it seemed like there wasn't that big a difference in shootability, to be honest. Yes, the 357's heavier, so that tames the recoil a little bit, but it's just not as much of a dramatic difference as what you would think it is. You know, if you can rapid fire the 9mm, you can kind of rapid fire the 357 mag as well. So that's what you get today with the 357 mag versus 9mm. And I would say there's a big difference here. So raw power versus capacity, kind of a toss-up there. I don't think that you should just, you know, discredit raw power because it doesn't have a lot of capacity, as long as you do your part. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.